Have you missed the news lately? Well, Haiti was hit by a hurricane, water is being cut out west, the Afghanistan government fell to the Taliban, and Joe Biden is off at camp. So of course it's all Trump's fault. Let me catch you up. It's another day that ends in Y, so it's Donald Trump's fault. Because if anything bad happens, it's Trump's fault. And now the chaos that is Afghanistan, with the government falling to the Taliban and people attempting to flee, that's why the president, not the one named Donald Trump, because Trump isn't president right now, had to blame the former president. Again, the one who isn't president right now. First, though, virtue signaling Joe had to take off that mask in more ways than one.
Good afternoon.
It's not a good afternoon when the President of the United States finally is plucked from his cozy camp life and forced to make a statement because that's just one little part of his job as Commander-in-Chief. Of course, he then promptly blamed Trump for having to withdraw and talked about his diplomacy plan.
We will continue to support the Afghan people. We will lead with our diplomacy, our international influence, and our humanitarian aid. We'll continue to push for regional diplomacy and engagement to prevent violence and instability. We'll continue to speak out for the basic rights of the Afghan people, of women and girls, just as we speak out all over the world. I've been clear, the human rights must be the center of our foreign policy, not the periphery. But the way to do it is not through endless military deployments. It's with our diplomacy, our economic tools, and rallying the world to join us.
Yes, because the one thing the Taliban takes seriously is women's rights. It's our diplomacy, which will get it all back on track. Because we are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's just start giving. Sorry, that was meant for Africa, not the Middle East. But let this sink in for a moment. Joe Biden boasts as a catchphrase that America is back.
America is back. America is back. Diplomacy is back at the center of our foreign policy.
So America is back. And right now in Afghanistan, they now boast that the Taliban is back. And by they, I mean the Taliban boasts that the Taliban is back because Afghan people damn well can't speak. I'll get into the details in a moment. But today's question, what do we do about Afghanistan? This has been a question for about my entire lifetime and probably much of yours too. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. And here's my weekly plea for you to subscribe to the Healthy Republic page on YouTube. And if you could share this video, that would be helpful too. Now, in case you forgot, we have such wonderful leadership. Immaculate, impeccable. I know this because over the weekend, when the chaos ensued in Afghanistan, our leadership was doing something. The official White House Twitter account tweeted out, "This morning, the president and vice president met with their national security team and senior officials to hear updates on the drawdown of our civilian personnel in Afghanistan, evacuations of SIV applicants and other Afghan allies, and the ongoing security situation in Kabul." Except no one is there but Biden in an empty room. Where in the world is Kamalama Ding Dong? Okay, fine. That may be her in the middle of that Zoom call. But why is Joe Biden all by himself in a room, even on a Zoom call, and not in the White House Situation Room? Well, he's at camp. Camp David. Because camp is where his mom used to send him.
She'd say, you know, Joey, bravery resides in everyone's heart, and someday it will be summoned. And when it is, honey, you've got to step up. Character matters. Integrity matters, Joey.
Step up he did, all the way onto Marine One so he could go to Camp David. Was he out golfing while all of this was happening? Because you know golf is not allowed as president. You must only play basketball. But since it was Biden, he was probably just out wandering. They call him the Wanderer. Yeah, the Wanderer. He roams around. That's President Biden. A man who really did lose his way to his office. And I wish that wasn't so. But that's the reality, folks. I'll say this. No one has been right on Afghanistan for 20 years. So that means Democrats, Republicans, and every damn bureaucrat has not seemed to make it work. And our men and women in uniform have paid ultimate sacrifices for that. They lost lives and limbs to try to keep a foothold there to battle terrorism in both Afghanistan and Iraq. And now Joe Biden just said, "We out." And since we don't teach history anymore, I'll let you all know that this is in fact reminiscent of another time in history when something like this happened. It was April 1975, and Joe Biden was a young senator from Delaware who didn't know much about anything. So not much has changed there. Vietnam was in a bad place. What we now know as Ho Chi Minh City was back then called Saigon. And in April 1975, Saigon fell to the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong, thereby ending the attempts at making Vietnam anything but the Socialist Republic of Vietnam that it reunified into. Yet Biden doesn't want to acknowledge the similarities between Saigon 1975 and Kabul 2021.
Do you see any parallels between this withdrawal and what happened in Vietnam with some people feeling...
None whatsoever. Zero. What you had entire brigades breaking through the gates of our embassy. 6, if I'm not mistaken. The Taliban is not the North Vietnamese army. They're not remotely comparable in terms of capability. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of a embassy of the United States from Afghanistan. It is not at all comparable. So the question now is, where do they go from here? That the jury is still out. But the likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
Exhibit A, please.
In both photographs, taken 46 years apart, U.S. Army Chinook helicopters are visible hovering over U.S. embassy buildings to extract staff in both these cities under siege.
But nothing to see here. At the same July 8th press conference of Joe Biden making a highlight reel of that claim aged not so well, let's watch Biden doing what Biden does.
Very much. Your own intelligence community has assessed that the Afghan government will likely collapse.
That is not true.
Can you please clarify what they have told you about whether that will happen or not?
That is not true. They did not reach that conclusion.
So what is the level of confidence that they have that it will not collapse?
The Afghan government and leadership has to come together. They clearly have the capacity to sustain the government in place.
So well equipped that it completely fell apart faster than a house built out of a deck of cards after someone coughed. And after an act of journalism was committed by the New York Times, it was reported that classified assessments by American spy agencies over the summer painted an increasingly grim picture of the prospect of a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan and warned of the rapid collapse of the Afghan military, even as President Biden and his advisors said publicly that was unlikely to happen as quickly, according to current and former American government officials. So Biden is lying. Again.
I always promised the American people that I would be straight with you. The truth is, this did unfold more quickly than we had anticipated.
Thank you, New York Times, for doing your jobs for once and calling out Biden. But you won't get that kind of reporting over at CNN. They're too busy dancing on the graves of the elderly they so happily helped Andrew Cuomo dig. Now, I have to talk over this because the music is copyrighted, but let's just say the music's bumping, and little brother Fredo's dance moves leave a lot to be desired. Disturbing. Meanwhile, NBC decided to peddle the panic porn of the Department of Homeland Security, which laid out a terrorism alert ahead of the anniversary of 9/11. With the Taliban taking over Afghanistan, that would make sense. Except that's not who they say are the terrorists.
Well, DHS says this new terrorism advisory is not based on any actual threats or plots, but it says there's a rise in anti-government rhetoric. Some of it is opposition to COVID public health rules like mask and vaccine measures. Some calls for violent action are based on claims of election fraud or a belief that Donald Trump can be reinstated. And DHS says the coming 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks and religious holidays later this year could be catalysts for violence.
Because in their minds, not wanting to wear a mask is more dangerous than the Taliban. It all comes full circle. It's still Trump's fault. Is it any wonder, then, that Biden's approval ratings not only hit their lowest ever at 46%, but they dropped by 7 points in a matter of 3 days?
I am shooketh.
I just talked about the tip of the iceberg with all of this. The level of stupidity and danger we've embarked upon is actually quite frightening because we have rational thinking abilities and can see a terrorist when one takes over the country of Afghanistan. But the man who holds the launch codes cannot. For the sake of sanity, please share rationality and this video with your friends and family. Until next time, stay healthy, America.